already made a post about this, but I want to make a post where I am speaking so that people can hear what I'm saying. This whole conversation going around about book talk isn't political and books aren't political. First of all, everything that you do is political. You making a video on your phone right now is political, okay? Because they can take away social media and our phones and everything that we have access to communicate with each other at any given moment that they want to. Second of all, I have never liked that topic that started last year about, oh, I mindlessly read or I turn my brain off to read, because I knew in that moment that it would start something even bigger, because you cannot turn your brain off to read. I am so sorry. Like, I get that it's just like, I don't really think about what I'm reading. You need to be thinking about what you're reading. You need to be taking in the information that you are reading. A lot of these books that y'all are reading are political. Don't even get me started about that. There is not a fantasy book out here that is not political. So yes, by default, romance fantasy, your little romance books are political. Those mafia dark romance books that you read are political. Open your fucking eyes and read the words on the page. And politics and reading on Book Talk is important right now more than it'll ever be when there is a president that will be in office that will be banning books. And you might think, oh, they're just going to ban books out of schools. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Which one it is. You should not be censoring what children are reading. You should not be censoring things from children, because when you have the opportunity to ban books from schools, it's not just, oh, books with smut in it. No, it's going to be books about queer characters, black characters, characters of color, disabled characters. They are going to try to censor you so that they can make you dumber so that you are easier to control. Same reason why they want to get rid of the Department of Education. The Department of Education. Same reason why they want to get rid of the Department of Education. So that they can censor you. So that they can make you dumber. So that you are easier to control. Okay? And once they start banning books from schools, what do you think they're going to do to your precious little smut books? Think about that. You know what's crazy is, for a while I've been wanting to make videos about like discernment in men on Book Talk, but I didn't really know how to word it, because when I say men on Book Talk, I'm not talking about men who actually read, who read fantasy, like who are nerds, who fully enjoy books. I solely am talking about those men who get on here and they only read smut and they're like, oh my gosh, like ACOTAR is so good, you guys. Those men are duping you, okay? Women who convince their boyfriends to read these smutty books and then their boyfriends get on here and they're like, yeah, the book was so good. They're doing that for views. Men who get on here and they only read smutty books. Not saying that men can't read smut. I would love for a man that I'm romantically interested in to be open to reading romance and smut. Not that I would really push for it, because anyways, whatever. Y'all need to be discerning. And it's crazy, I didn't say anything because, one, nobody watches my videos, but two, because I didn't know how to word it. And now you have that guy, which I have him blocked, because I don't know if he was the guy who was dating that Cali girl. I got her blocked too. Got her, and I don't want them to overcook. So I'll just say that if you see a man on here and he's pandering to women, and you know when men are pandering to women, just block him, because it's very obvious what they're doing. And the fact that he voted for Trump and then got on here and bragged about it and felt comfortable enough to brag about it. Practice discernment, you guys. Like, come on. So for the past few days, I've been thinking about this poll that I came across the other day. And it was who fictional characters would vote for. And I want to know if we are watching the same piece of media with our brains turned on. I cannot get out of my brain the fact that people think that Batman, it's an even split. You think that would be an even split? Batman who beats up criminals? Batman whose sole duty is to love and protect Gotham? You think that Batman would be any likely to vote for Trump? Batman? He hates felons. Automatically, that's a no. Deadpool is not likely to vote for Trump at all. Deadpool, who makes gay jokes all the time. And they're not like, oh, gay jokes at the hand of other people. They're gay jokes at the hand of himself. And also, even with like reading the comics, why would you think that Deadpool would ever vote for Trump? Ron Swanson? You think that Ron Swanson would vote for Trump. First of all, Ron Swanson probably wasn't even registered to vote up until 2016. Also, Nick Offerman got on Twitter and told y'all in 2016 that Ron Swanson would have voted for Hillary Clinton, okay? So what makes you think that he would vote differently in 2024? This man who loves his wife and daughter with all of his heart, you think that he would vote for Trump? I just want to know, when y'all are watching media, how are y'all watching media? Like, are y'all watching it in the gaze of like, oh my gosh, this guy is so cool and he has money, so obviously he's a conservative, especially superheroes. This is not The Boys, okay? This is not. The superheroes are fighting for the rights of their cities. Captain America is fighting for the right of America. You think he would pick to vote for Trump? No. What are y'all, how are y'all watching this media? Like, how are y'all consuming media? Because this whole, like, I know in the book community there's a whole issue that I have where people turn their brain off to read. I think that y'all are turning your brain off to consume media, which I don't know if we've like moved past the books are political conversation, but what I've been thinking about is like the people who are saying it's not political. You'll like look at their bookshelves and they'll have like Sarah J Maas and like Fourth Wing on their bookshelves, and there's no way that people are reading fantasy, like romantasy, fantasy, whatever, and being like books aren't political. Like, not even touching on the topic of how reading itself is political. How are you reading like ACOTAR? Like, this is why the whole like reading with your brain shut off thing always irritated me, because what do you mean ACOTAR is not political? The whole like, what do you mean Throne of Glass books are not political? There are no way you are reading fantasy books and they are not political. Fourth Wing, the book about the girl who mom literally oppresses people and the main character falls in love with the girl who's oppressed. What do you mean? What do you guys think politics are? Like, what? Y'all know that girl that got on here and she was like, I'm happy that Trump got reelected because that means that $10 paperbacks are on their way. And everyone is getting her because they're like, girl, it's never gonna go down, it's only gonna go up from here. She also looks like she's about 12, but that's not the point. My point is that I got bored, so I was going through her account and I just wanted to see like what type of books that she has to read. One, I'm pretty sure she's a minor because all the books that she's reading are YA. Two, it's so funny how these people who voted for him read fantasy books that are, well, first of all, every book is political, right? No matter if you're reading romance, a cute little romance that you don't think is, political, whatever. All of the books that she was reading were like fantasy books, like YA fantasy books that have politics in it. And one that I found really interesting was she was reading she was excited to read Stalking Jack the Ripper. And I'm like, this is so funny because Stalking Jack the Ripper is literally about this girl who wants to be able to work on unalived bodies, but she can't because she's a woman in the society. And luckily for her, her uncle, I believe, it's been a minute since I read it, her uncle owns like somewhere that she can do that, so she ends up working under him and she gets to be a woman that is working in this male dominated society. I don't know if these people are reading books with their eyes closed, if they don't think that these are politics, or what. Like, how could you support somebody who literally would put you in that exact same situation as the book in a heartbeat? What?
Incredibly niche thing I'm about to talk about, but I built this following brick by brick, and I know some of you know what I'm saying. But the first thing, don't boycott Sunset Boulevard because of Nicole Scherzinger potentially being an undercover Trumpy. Because after Sunset Boulevard, Nicole Scherzinger will still have money. She has money right now. But there are hundreds of people potentially who are dependent on that show for their jobs and income. And I'm sure a lot of them are women, LGBTQ plus people. I'm saying that in that environment, she's likely outnumbered and you're likely hurting other people and not her at all. With that part being said, how the fuck you snatch a Tony out of your own hands? That's crazy work. Because she had it. She had it before I fear. It was hers to lose. Potentially it's been lost. I don't know. And mind you, like, they were eating her up in that role. They were eating it up. Apparently she's really great in that role. And I feel like Nicole Scherzinger, in the terms of like mainstream pop space, no one really gave her flowers because she is actually a very good vocalist, but she just never, I don't know, really found her footing in that space. And you found somewhere where people are like, wait, you're eating and you fuck it up that bad? Like, that's crazy. We're at Dr. Doofenshmirtz levels of self-destruct. Like, and bro, Patti LuPone's in her walls. Like, Patti LuPone is literally on her ceiling right now. They might as well have her get on that stage and hand Audra McDonald the Tony now, girl. Like, congratulations, Audra, for the millionth time. Why'd some dumbass, sorry, I can't be nice to people anymore. Why'd some dumbass comment, nobody's died because of the abortion ban? That's factually incorrect. And she said, well, they didn't die because of the abortion ban. They died because of doctors not doing their job. Why can't the doctor do their job? Why? Because someone commented that. And I live in Texas. And I literally went, so women, multiple women, plural, have actually died because of the abortion ban. Like, factually, they died because doctors could not operate in a timely manner to save their lives because of how strict the abortion ban is. This dumbass is gonna say, well, that's because the doctors didn't do their job. You made it illegal. It was made illegal to do their job. There was a woman who died of sepsis because she had to wait for her fetus to have no heartbeat. She was having a miscarriage, but they were not allowed to help her because she had to wait for the fetus to have no heartbeat. Eventually, she was able to have the abortion after having to wait that period of time and having her own health worsen while that baby was never going to be alive, and then died from the bacteria that manifested in the time that she had to wait for her baby to have no heartbeat. That's all you. I need you people to know that this is what the policies that you're advocating so hard for are doing in reality. First of all, having a child, being pregnant, is incredibly dangerous in itself. Without any of the complications that could happen. It's already very dangerous to then get to a point where like some health complication has occurred where you need an abortion for your own life. For it to get to the point where, a health complication has occurred and it is a health problem for the mother and produces a fetus that is not viable. The fetus cannot exist outside of the mother. Even in those cases, they gotta wait for the fetus to have no heartbeat. They just have to let you get worse until the fetus has no heartbeat, and then they can help you. I'm saying, like, y'all aren't letting doctors do their job. You're not letting the doctors do their job. Like, the doctors they can't. It's illegal. Like, because I'm sorry, I just can't go through this life letting you people think that you're good people because you're not. Because you're not.
Sure, but first and foremost, I would like to say that I do not need to explain this to you, and everything I'm about to say is information that you also have access to. Now, the most glaringly obvious one is the right to bodily autonomy. And you might think, wait, Ariel, Donald Trump didn't overturn Roe v. Wade like the Supreme Court did. Well, yes, however, Supreme Court justices serve for life, meaning once you are a Supreme Court justice, you are a Supreme Court justice until you die, or until you go, hey, I don't want to be a Supreme Court justice anymore. So really, once you're a Supreme Court justice, you're locked in. Like, you could get impeached by Congress, and then you have to be convicted by the Senate. And that won't happen because people just voted in a majority Republican Senate. So when one of those two things happens, somebody's got to appoint another Supreme Court justice. And that person is the President of the United States. The Supreme Court consists of 9 judges. During his presidency, Donald Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, all very conservative, very right-leaning people that align with Donald Trump's views. So another case came up in the Supreme Court where they basically got the chance to go, hold on a minute, we just decided that abortion, Roe v. Wade, it doesn't really cover it like that. And the now majority conservative Supreme Court, due to the justices appointed by Donald Trump, the ones that align with his views, overturned Roe v. Wade. Now in the US, federal law, that's the law of the land. You gotta do what they say. However, if they don't say anything in the federal law about what you got to do, the states can do whatever they want. Which is why now in Texas there exists a very strict abortion ban, because Texas can decide what happens within Texas. There is no longer a federal mandate that they have to adhere to. And since that has happened, the maternal mortality rate in Texas has gone up significantly, and multiple women have died. The women and doctors will be like, hey, these women are dying actively, and this fetus might still have a heartbeat. However, the fetus cannot live outside of this woman. So like the fetus is dead no matter what. However, this woman needs an abortion or she might die. And they said, well, that fetus still has a heartbeat, so wait it out, girl. And that has killed multiple women. And bodily autonomy is absolutely a right that even dead people have. That's why if to donate your organs, you have to agree while you are alive to donate your organs. Even after you die, if somebody needs lungs, they can't just take your lungs. You had to agree to that. But for some reason, everybody thinks a uterus is fair game. I don't know. And remember what I said about federal law being the law of the land? So if the Supreme Court, the majority conservative Supreme Court now, again, because of Donald Trump, if another case were to arrive to them, if they were to decide, do you know what? Strict abortion ban, maybe that's the law of the land. Now that shit applies to everybody, regardless of where. If you live in California, that is a very blue state by large, it doesn't matter. It would not matter because it would then be the federal law. Your state can no longer go, no, we don't like that one. We're not really going to rock with it. These conservatives on the Supreme Court have also been vocal about being anti-gay marriage and anti-interracial marriage. So I think it's actually very okay for people to be potentially concerned that rights that have held up for quite some time would be taken away. So going viral at the moment, I don't like going viral because then the things leave my space. Like this is family business. This is family business. What are all you other people doing here? And I've gone so long. It was actually really nice. I'd gone so long without going viral for something political, which usually brings racist people to my page and sexist people to my page. And I don't want them to be here. Because usually what happens if you have a viral video, like it'll start off like, yes, the intended audience is here, like they get it. And then it like circles back around to like the lame-o losers that you don't want to interact with. And it'll reach a lot of them for some reason. And that hadn't happened for so long, but the people yearn to see me bonk a conservative on the head. I said something a little too real. They were here for the whackings. And it's always the videos where I'm like, nobody's gonna see this, so I really start dragging people. And then everybody and their mom saw it. Like,
hey you, if you're seeing this, there's a good chance you're having the kind of day that I am. So I'm going to say this with a lot of love. Get up. Get up, get some water, get a snack, stretch your legs, use the bathroom, do something, stop doom scrolling. I know today is heavy and brings about a lot of big feelings and a lot of grief and a lot of sadness, and it's really easy to stay in bed and kind of like spiral out if you have the capacity, and even if you don't, it's really easy to not take care of yourself. But not only are you no use to the cause if you're not taking care of, you're no use to yourself. You can't look for a way forward. You can't find the possibilities for optimism or joy anywhere. You have to take care of yourself too. So I know it might be hard, but find something to bring you joy or to at least get you out of bed a little bit. It could be hanging out with a friend. I talked to my friend for hours earlier today. It could be going on a walk if the weather's nice. It could be getting smacked around in the face by your baby if you're in my circumstances. It can be anything at all, even if it's just getting up and getting a sip of water and a little something to eat, because I know you probably haven't eaten since last night. Today can be a day of grief and loss and sadness and looking for a way forward, but in that grief and in those feelings, you do still need to survive. So get up, take a breath, take a stretch, get some water, get a snack, take a nap, do something else besides spiral out. And if you have a baby, don't let them beat you up too much, because they will apparently put their hands on you. So big picture, the thing that Trump is doing / will do that will prevent women and non-binary people from having kids is chipping away at healthcare, at things that you need medically to have kids. Obviously, there's the termination thing, but when we think about it, it's not just forcing people to have kids who don't want kids. It's also denying medically necessary procedures to people who need them. So like if you miscarry and lose your baby or fetus, then sometimes the procedure that you need to help make sure that your body passes all of the remaining tissue is an abortion. And if you can't get that done until you're in a literally life-threatening situation, then we're going to see what we're already seeing in droves, which is that people are not surviving long enough to get the procedure. They're bleeding out in their cars and in the hospital and everywhere else. Additionally, you should be going to the doctor in order to successfully carry a pregnancy, even if it's one that you really want. You need doctors and nurses to help you deliver, which is a huge gamble medically. Lots of things can go wrong. I personally got sick when I was giving birth. You need doctors and nurses at all of your prenatal appointments before that to help tell you if anything is going on, if anything is going wrong, if there's anything that you need, if you have preeclampsia. And, you know, preeclampsia comes with like a host of other medical problems. You need to see the doctor. You see that doctor a lot. Like I saw them every other month until I was seeing them every other week, until I was seeing them every single week until I had a baby. And people aren't going to practice this kind of medicine if they know that it comes at the risk of losing their license, losing their family, getting arrested, etc. Or if they don't want to have those risks, not doing the necessary life-saving things that they need to do as medical professionals. They don't want to be in that situation. So people just aren't going to practice that medicine that people need. And so people, namely women, are trying to decide if it's worth the gamble to have kids, if it's worth taking that risk on to your life, even if you want children. Because he's not just banning terminations, but he's chipping away at the necessary medical care needed to have happy, healthy babies and happy, healthy parents. I just woke up, obviously, I'm still in my PJs, and I open the Bird app, and the first thing I see is Netanyahu congratulating Donald Trump. I know he did it yesterday. I took some time away yesterday, but I opened my eyes and my phone this morning, and that was the first thing I saw, and it was heartbreaking. It was devastating to read the excitement that Netanyahu has now that Trump is president. And I immediately am terrified of what that means for all of the Palestinians that we've spent the last year advocating to save. The worst person for the job now has the job. And then I open TikTok, naively, foolishly looking for a laugh, hoping to find a girl who burned her banana bread so bad it turned into like primordial soup. And I find out that women are sharing their baby names. If you didn't know, baby names are a big deal. We don't generally share them. If we do, we share them with close friends. They're not like super duper common knowledge. I had my baby name picked out when I was 12, and you know, I didn't tell a lot of people so that I could use it when I had my baby. If women are sharing their baby names, it means that women who wanted babies, wanted a family, wanted that life, are giving up on it. It's not safe to have babies. It's not safe to start a family. It's just too many risks at this point, and people just aren't doing it. I can't help but think about what waking up today should have felt like had Kamala won. Yeah, maybe some people wouldn't be bouncing through the streets, although some would. Some would just be like, oh my gosh, another politician. But there wouldn't be this feeling of grief and loss and fear in the air. People are worried about what this means for their disabled kids in school. They're worried about how they're going to pay for college now that things like the Pell Grant are likely on the chopping block. People are worried about how they're going to care for and advocate for Palestine. People are worried and scared for how they're going to advocate for anything now that police likely will get full immunity. Just watching people grieve their futures today, knowing that no matter how you felt about Kamala, this wouldn't have happened today had she won, is just really sad. It's tougher to wake up to today than yesterday. Good morning. Y'all are once again back on the South shouldn't be a part of the country. Everybody here is stupid. It's all their fault thing. So let me remind you for the 1000th time that people you know and love live in the South. Queer people live in the South. Disabled people live in the South. Poor people live in the South. People of color live in the South. Specifically, Black people live in the South. We all live here. Not a single one of us deserves to perish. We don't deserve to perish. We don't deserve to suffer. We don't deserve bad things just because the South is, again, overwhelmingly red. Especially when the reason why the South votes that way, why the South's education levels look that way, why the South's economic levels look that way, is by design. It is done on purpose. Between the direct, clear, obvious stuff like gerrymandering and voter disenfranchisement, we also have to deal with things like the way that education in the South is structured, as it was structured to keep poor people from learning and Black people from learning. And those systems don't just disappear. They don't just get uprooted, even as the country at large continues to develop forward. So even if you're like, oh my gosh, everybody in the South is stupid and poor and that's why they vote that way and it's all their fault, you have to remember that education in the South is consistently devalued and consistently attacked. And it is really easy to instill fear in people and then prey on that fear if people don't know better. And so they intentionally keep people from knowing better, and even once you know better, even once you want to do differently, they make voting so incredibly difficult that it keeps them in power. This playbook is as old as time, has happened in every election before this, and will happen in every election after unless something gives. And since y'all just want to write the South off and all of the marginalized people that live within it off every couple of minutes, I can't see that changing anytime soon. If you're wondering why they want to defund the Department of Education, or you're wondering why the South continues to vote the way it does despite low rankings in education, I have a story. So I went to the store the other day because my family needed Christmas tree lights and Christmas tree hooks because we have like 23 Christmas trees to put up. That's not important to the story, I just wanted to share. So I'm running through the store. I grab my Christmas tree lights. I grab some scented pine cones. I'm looking for ornament hooks. I can't find them. So I turn to the first person that looks like they work there, which is this older white guy in like a camo vest. And he comes walking up to me, and off rip, I know he voted for Trump. So I ask him what ornament hooks are. He, sweet as can be, mind you, doesn't know. He looks it up on his phone, takes forever to type, can't find it, does some scrolling. It says RW. He's trying to guide me around the store so we can find them. I'm hoping he looks at his phone for maybe some context clues as to the answer to this question. Finally, we find a guy wearing a mask, and he goes, I'm going to ask this much smarter gentleman what he thinks. The quote-unquote much smarter gentleman points us in the right direction. I scoop up the hooks, tell the man about my 23 Christmas trees and my 3-month-old baby. He says, God bless you and your baby. I'm like, thank you so much, and I scamper on. And what really hit home for me in that exchange is that well-intentioned or not, generally speaking, kind or not, that man couldn't explain to me what a tariff is. He couldn't tell me the medical necessities for an abortion, much less how they take place or what they have to do. He couldn't tell me about foreign policy anywhere, much less any of the multitudes of things taking place in the Middle East right now. He will look to whoever he can perceive as smarter than him to tell him what to do. And at his job, it's the man in the mask, but in his personal life, it's the man in the red hat just feeding him information. I think that organically, that man would not have anything against me. He was perfectly nice. But when you don't know stuff, it is incredibly easy to fall for anything. And they know that. And so they want to take away your access to education and your access to knowledge so that they can take advantage of that.
Here's some romance books that didn't make me cringe out of my mind while I was reading them. Despite being a lover of the romance genre, it's actually very difficult for me to find books that did not make me cringe. Deeply cringe. But for these books, the cringe-o-meter was either very, very low or non-existent throughout the whole book. First we have Between Friends and Lovers by Shirley Nobuobi. The cover will deceive you. This seems like it'll be a love triangle situation. It's really not. Our FMC is very inexperienced in the dating world, but I also loved how this book touched on mental health, the struggles of being a successful Black woman, and also the MMCs were just so lovely. We got 2 Jessica Joyce books next, You With a View and The X-Vows. You With a View is high school rivals to lovers, and then The X-Vows is second chance romance. Don't be present here and be anti-second chance romance. We don't do that, okay? Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. Now, if you don't like the pregnancy trope, I hate to break it to you. I don't think you're gonna like this one. However, it's also friends to lovers, so if you do like that, maybe give it a shot. Somehow the FMC in this book leaves with 2 baby daddies. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know. Listen. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young is one of the best romance books that I read this year. I hate to say it again. Pregnancy trope. I hate to say it again. But this book is known as the pregnancy trope book that is going to make you not hate the pregnancy trope. Like, it's kind of like Gateway. You get what I'm saying? So if you're kind of doubtful, maybe dive in. There's also really good disability representation in this book. Next, we have our magical realism queen, Ashley Poston. This book, The 7-Year Slip, this is a book talk beloved. If you ever heard about this book, you've been living under Patrick's rock. This book is what made me realize I like magical realism in romance. I always knew I liked it in books. I just didn't know how good it could be for romance books. A new one added to the roster, Big Fan by Alexandra Romanoff. This book is so short. I read it in literally like 3-4 hours. The publisher 831 Stories just came out with another book, Hardly Strangers by A.C. Robinson, and I'm really excited to read this one. Like, it's gonna be prioritized on the TBR. This is a romance book with a political scandal backdrop, and our FMC is very much dealing with misogyny in the political sphere. So I don't really read a lot of YA romance, but Love Requires Chocolate by Raven K. Stringfield really scratched an itch in my brain. It follows this teenage girl who is studying abroad in Paris. If you have any teenagers or just anyone in your life that's looking for a really wholesome romance book, I think this will really hit the spot for them. This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I read this past summer, and y'all, talk about a beach read. This book is very messy. I mean, our FMC is literally in love with her best friend's brother. So do with that what you will. Now, what did y'all expect? I mean, every single one cringe was on absolute 0. Not a single thing in these books made me cringe. Not one. I mean that with my entire chest. Emily Henry and her books are a gift to this genre and a gift to the world. If you don't agree, Literally exit. And then lastly, I have 2 Abby Jimenez books, Yours Truly and Just for the Summer. I'm gonna be honest, Part of Your World does not fit in this category for me. I really was not digging that first book. These 2, yes. Per usual, I'm not putting that stack back up on my lap. No. Too heavy, but I hope that you got some recs from this, and I hope that if you've seen me talk about some of these books before, you actually open your ears and start listening. How about that?
I cannot believe I forgot 7 Days in June. That book was so good. I did not cringe at all. Also, Collide by Belcabra. I was really shocked that didn't make me cringe, because usually a hockey romance, that's gonna make me cringe. I had a great time with it. I'm about to read the arc for the second book.
The way that young men in this country got it into their heads that voting for Trump and voting against the rights of women would make them tough guys, so bonkers to me. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I know a lot of you are going to say 52% of white women voted for Trump too, and 52% of white women should cross to the other side of the fucking street if they see me coming. I will deal with them in my own way. But right now, I want to speak to the young men. And I just want to ask, do you think that the Punisher would be okay with the government trying to control his wife's body? Seriously, this is a thought experiment. Do you think Frank Castle, the Punisher, the super tough badass you all pretend to be in your fantasies, do you think he would just sit back and take it when the government tried to control his wife's body? Or another one of your heroes, do you think Thomas Shelby would be okay with men in power forcing the woman he loves into a life-threatening medical procedure that she doesn't want? Do you think that John Wick would be okay watching his wife bleed out from a miscarriage in a fucking parking lot because she can't get a termination of pregnancy procedure to save her life? Because I don't think they would. I think they would tell the government to stay the fuck away from the women they love, and if the government didn't listen, I think they would say, okay, well now I have a machine gun. Because that's what actual strong men do. Rolling over and just taking it like a dog when other men try to come after the women you love, that's weak. It's the weakest thing I can think of. And the fact that you all care more about looking tough in front of other men than caring about the actual women you love and protecting them, it is so weak. I'm sorry, but it has been so funny opening Instagram and Facebook today, seeing who's reposting stuff like, you shouldn't hate people because of their politics. You should respect people even with different political views. Because the assumption that their politics is the only reason I dislike them, 99% of the time, this is simply not true. Like, I'm sorry to drop this bombshell on you, but I hated you and found you annoying long before I knew who you voted for this election. I just didn't say it to your face. You don't need to worry about me starting to hate you because of your politics. I'm not starting. I've been at this behind the scenes for quite some time now. I just didn't want to hurt your feelings by unfollowing you. And now you've released me from those shackles. Like, even when I put your politics aside, even when I forget that, I still don't respect you. I still hate you because of your bad personality and the fact that you're annoying and conceited and your serious case of main character syndrome and the patronizing tone you assume online and the way you caption your Instagram photos and the way you repost fake deep shit like this and those god-awful wide brim, incredibly rigid fedora hats you wear. You look like you're on a goddamn safari. There's no universe in which I would fuck with you. Like, I would not respect you in every universe. I would hate you in every universe.
No, I agree. Annie and Finnick's story, I think, becomes more compelling, pushes further the themes of the narrative if they are careers. I think a lot of people are confused about Annie because of how we understand her to be post-games, like very, very traumatized, suffering from severe PTSD. But we are told her story in a very small paragraph. So she wins the 70th games 5 years before the Quarter Quell. This is the year that Katniss's dad died, so she doesn't remember it too well. But Peeta and the other victors tell her about it, but she remembers some of the details. Basically, what we know is that Annie is with her district partner, likely in an alliance, right? Potentially in a career pack. Maybe that doesn't include all the careers, but in an alliance with her district partner. And that district partner, the boy from District 4, is beheaded in front of her. Extremely traumatizing. I understand. That is gory. That is awful. I think of that quote from Joanna, right? He wasn't much, but he was from home. They don't even have to be close. He wasn't much, but he was from home. Also, that's just awful to witness. Awful. And because of this, she goes into extreme shock and PTSD, and she becomes very mentally unstable and runs and hides for the rest of the games until there's an earthquake. And the earthquake breaks a dam and the arena floods, and she happens to be the best swimmer and outlasts everyone else. I have seen interesting conversations about whether that earthquake is game maker made or naturally occurring, and discussion around that is very interesting. But I think prior to the games, Annie could have been for the games. You never know how you are going to react to certain situations. You never know who's going to be impacted the worst, who can deal with it a little better, who can disguise it. And I think her story and Phoenix is compelling if they are careers, if they're bought into the games and they very quickly see the reality and are radicalized.
I'll probably only say it once, but I'm fucking angry, and I'm upset, and I'm scared, so who knows. To all the people that said Kamala Harris was not progressive enough to earn your vote, fuck you. And I'm not, playing this game because it matters. It matters who you voted for. It matters the rhetoric that you spread on the internet up until this election. All of it fucking mattered. It matters. And I don't want to hear any bullshit of, oh, you're gonna blame me instead of the people who voted for Trump. No, I'm gonna blame both of you. Because that's how this works. Because that's the reality of the situation. And you can sit there and say that you had the best intentions and you had great morals. Doesn't matter, because the end game, it's the same. So congrats on voting with your fucking conscience. I'm angry at you too. And anybody who's angry at you is well within their right to be. I'm so glad that this was just a game to so many of you.
I don't think a lot of you truly understand or know what Project 2025 is. I do not think any of you took the time to understand what it's going to do. I think a lot of you think it's just a group of scary laws and we're gonna fight it, and some of them will go through, but we'll fight it as a community. We will fight it. You still don't understand what Project 2025 is. When Trump takes office and Project 2025 is installed on his first day, our unemployment rates are going to soar through the fucking roof. Your ability to reach out to any government agency is going... You think it's difficult to get into the DMV now? Good fucking luck after January. Yes, Project 2025 is a collection of laws they want to put into place and policies they want to put into place, right? Like Trump has said on his first day in office, mass deportations will begin. But the main bulk of Project 2025 is all referring to Schedule F government employees. A majority of government employees and government officials fall under the category of Schedule F. And since the creation of these positions and of these jobs, they have been nonpartisan jobs. People are strictly hired based on merit. Hiring processes are based solely on your ability to fill that position. After Project 2025 is officially signed into place, it officially turns all Schedule F employees into partisan employees. All of these government officials can now be fired for not being registered Republicans, can even furthermore be fired for not being avid supporters of the current president, Donald Trump. Trump has already made it very clear that that is how he will fill all government roles from that point forward. So as soon as that's signed in, there's going to be just a mass firing of many government employees. Oh, you work for the Department of Health because you were a doctor and you have a master's in the medical field and you have years of experience? Too bad. You're not an avid supporter of Donald Trump and you are not going to help us ban the abortion pill, so you're out of here. Those roles no longer have things like requirements, essentially. They are filled solely based on partisan affiliation. So on top of all the actually scary laws and things that Trump plans on doing with Project 2025, right? So on top of things like a mass deportation, we're going to also have Schedule F employees being released en masse. So just a side note, if anyone ever tells you they voted for Trump for the economy, we're going to be in
the greatest depression ever, probably by next year. A mass deportation in and of itself will make our economy collapse. On top of that, the unemployment rate skyrocketing to what it will presumably skyrocket to will also make an economy collapse. Essentially, our economy is now a ticking time bomb. So, my point is, I don't think people really understand, down to the most minuscule level, how much Project 2025 is going to severely impact so many people. And while we need to focus on community organizing and really starting to get our ducks in a row, ready to go, stop pretending that's the solution to everything. Stop pretending that in that short amount of time when that many people lose their fucking jobs, at the same time as a bunch of people are now hiding actively from our government to avoid deportation, stop pretending nobody's going to fall through the cracks. Because they are. That's the reality of the situation. It is going to be too much, and it is going to be too fast. And I don't even think the best of the best community organizers would tell you in full faith that they don't think anybody will fall through the cracks, even with the best organization and the best community support. I guess what I'm trying to say is today is not the day to get on this app and minimize what just fucking happened. And I think it's really fishy if you're trying to minimize what just happened, because either you don't understand, in which maybe you should go learn, or it seems like maybe you're part of the reason this happened and you're trying to justify it. I keep seeing these posts that are like, don't post yourself crying, don't post yourself emotional that Donald Trump won. There's nothing conservatives want more. There's nothing that MAGA wants to see more. There's nothing that makes them happier. And while I definitely understand that sentiment, I'd like to offer a different perspective. Who gives a fuck? I want you in your head to picture that person when you think of somebody coming on the internet to laugh at somebody crying over another Trump presidency. I want you to picture the person that comes on the internet and laughs at that. Now, I want you to picture everything else that makes that person laugh. Do they follow accounts like Libs of TikTok? Does that stuff make them laugh a lot? Probably, right? To that person, there's probably nothing funnier than seeing a trans person who isn't gender conforming. To that person, there's nothing funnier than seeing two masked lesbians together. To them, there's nothing funnier than seeing a teacher get fired in Florida for mentioning that they are gay. To me, I don't care what reaction that person has to any content. Because in order to have that kind of reaction, something has to be deeply broken and wrong within you. And I'll be damned if I censor myself, if I censor my emotions, I censor my expressions in order to somehow appease that person. And I'm not saying that you should put yourself in the direct line of fire. Let me be very clear. And I absolutely understand where people are coming from when they're saying, don't give them what they want. But I say, in my opinion, I don't care what they want. And expressing yourself in any way that caters to their reaction is, in my opinion, what's letting them win. And I've cried already numerous times at the fact that the only two women to ever be put up for presidential candidate that I was lucky enough to vote for both of them not only lost, but both of them lost to Donald Trump. It's just so fucking offensive on like 20 different levels, I think. It's not the leftists, it's all the people who voted for Trump. I genuinely, it hurts to watch so many people do fucking backbends to avoid any form of accountability. It's really just painful to watch so many people on the left be just so fucking weak in their convictions. Genuinely, it's pathetic, and that's what makes me have no real hope for the future of the left. People talk about how we have problems with infighting, this and that. No, we have a severe accountability and self-awareness problem. Everybody on the left seems to believe that being on the left absolves them of everything. They are now an inherently good person. They are inherently the epitome of community organizing and a progressive lighthouse to the world. And it's just an actually disgusting way to watch them just put themselves on a pedestal and completely lack any and all accountability and self-reflection. Donald Trump won the presidency. Donald Trump won the popular vote. That is the fault of everybody who voted for Donald Trump, as well as everybody who did not vote for the other primary candidate, Kamala Harris. That is the fact of the matter. Some of you are genuinely just babies, and you should genuinely be embarrassed by how you behave on the internet, because it really is just the epitome of that conservative caricature of this hyper sensitive snowflake who has no self-reflection, refuses to be accountable. You guys are turning into that fucking parody. If you chose not to vote, if you chose not to vote for Kamala Harris, if you chose to consistently spread rhetoric that encouraged others not to vote, people are completely right when they blame you partially for a Trump presidency. Can they blame you solely? No, but they can absolutely blame you for the part you played, because you did play a part. That is not a fucking debatable fact. It is a fact. I don't know why so many of you are so fucking afraid to look into a mirror that you're divorcing yourself from fact like MAGA freaks, but it's scary. If you believe you made the right decision, if you can stand behind that decision, that's what matters. You don't get to make that decision and then try and forcibly control everybody around you and how they view that decision. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. Once you eat it, it's gone. You can't save it anymore. It's like talking to fucking toddlers. All this says is that so many of you know you don't have a good reason for whatever decision you made, because that's why you feel so fucking threatened when someone says, I don't agree with people who made that decision, because you apparently don't even agree with yourself. That's how fucking flimsy you all are. You won't even stand behind your decision. You will make that decision, and then instead of standing behind it, you are just forcing yourself down everybody's fucking throat who disagrees with you to try and control their perception, because your own perception is so fucking skewed and you're so insecure in the decision you chose to make. Stand behind your fucking decisions. Stop telling people they can't blame you. They can't think of me this way for making this decision, and making it publicly, because they absolutely can. Grow the fuck up. The lack of effectiveness when it comes to all left communities has nothing to do with this like aversion to being social. It has nothing to do with infighting. It has everything to do with the severe aversion to conflict. I get so frustrated every time I see a fucking video talking about left infighting, because every time I see that, all I hear is shut up and get in line. You're not allowed to question anybody as long as they're on the left. And I vehemently disagree with that. I also think that is incredibly dangerous. And that's kind of the thing, is infighting in and of itself is important. Infighting is a sign of differing opinions, which leads to growth. If everybody agreed on everything, we would stop progressing. People will never universally agree on everything, because we all have different lived experiences and perspectives, and that's not a bad thing inherently. Those disagreements are so fucking important, and so many of you are just, I don't know if you're insecure in your own stances. Maybe you haven't done enough research, so you're worried that if you get pushed back, you won't be able to accurately fight back. I don't know if you know that you're just holding this opinion because it's the popular online opinion and you can't actually back yourself up or stand on it, so you're insecure when you get challenged. I don't know if some of you just need to go to therapy and like work fucking through something, but this aversion to differing opinions is dangerous. That aversion to differing opinions, it stunts your growth. There is absolutely nothing wrong with infighting if it's based in differing stances and opinions and in good faith. People are allowed to disagree with you, and you are allowed to disagree with other people, regardless of where they stand on the political spectrum. It's unfortunately not at all lost to me that a lot of people on the left can completely understand multifaceted systems and how everything is congruent with each other in order to condemn the systems that are directly harming them. But when it comes to reflecting and being accountable, all of the sudden, every action is its own and every event is isolated. Yes, here's a small example of where votes were lost for Kamala. Pretending that this is the whole picture is either a lie or it's genuinely just short-sighted. If we lived in a system like Australia where voting is mandatory, on election day, you have to vote. Everybody has the day off. You have to go to the polls or face consequences. That's why they have a voter turnout of 100% for their elections. If we lived in that kind of system, we could talk strictly about third-party votes and how the numbers just aren't enough to close the gap between Kamala and Trump. But we don't. And a big push of people who were voting third party was that they were also encouraging others, not all, but a lot, were also encouraging others to abstain from voting. So the third party votes alone mean literally nothing. This is only relevant in context with everything else, and it is all related. Cherry-picking information and stripping it of all of its context just so that you can feel better about your complicence in the Trump re-election, that's your business, but I don't deal in that. I deal in facts and I deal in truths. I deal in nuance. And the truth is, while people who voted third party and didn't vote are not as complicit in a Trump presidency as those who voted for Trump, you are still complicit because your actions don't exist in a vacuum. And you can hate the two-party system all you want, but that is the system that we live in. And when we live in a two-party system and you don't vote for one of the two main candidates, you are complicit in the results you get. And that's just a fact. And if you go back to the video that you are commenting on, I literally state that if you truly believe you made the right decision, you believe you made the moral decision, that's your prerogative and you can stand by that. My issue is the trying to have your cake and eat it too, right? One of the uncomfortable facts of this matter is when I voted for Kamala Harris, I voted for somebody who does support the state of Israel. While I am uncomfortable with Kamala Harris's allegiance to Israel and her hand in the ongoing genocide, I am comfortable in my decision to vote for her. And if you voted for somebody that you can say who genuinely has a great stance on Palestine, does not support the state of Israel, is actively against this genocide, congratulations. You are also complicit in the Trump re-election. And if you truly think that you made the right and moral decision, you will be okay with that complicity. It's not lost on me that everybody who is voting third party or abstaining from voting for Kamala Harris due to her support of Israel has continuously said, let's prove a point, let's send a message. What did you think that message was? It was losing votes. You got exactly what you wanted. Maybe you didn't fully understand what you wanted, or you're just uncomfortable with that fact. But that's not on me, that's on you. Exactly. And the amount of people that voted third party, didn't vote, or spread this harmful rhetoric, the amount of them that are jumping into the comments of people who are going to be directly affected by a Trump presidency, the amount of them that are jumping into those people's comments to tell them, actually, I was fully right, and stop complaining, stop blaming me. I by far am not going to be the most affected by a Trump presidency whatsoever. However, I am a woman, I am a person with a uterus, and I am a lesbian. And I really don't understand why people think that I'm the one that should be extending them grace for how their decision is going to affect me. You know, the president that put in Project 2025 that he wants to be able to 5150 any gay person just for being gay. Right. As opposed to empathizing with how people are genuinely scared, they're jumping into the comments of people who are scared of what's about to come and just asking for our validation and our approval and our acceptance in their justifications. Like, I'm so glad you and your boyfriend felt great voting for a third party. Please stay out of this lesbians comment section. The Democratic Party didn't energize people enough. Yeah, that's true. That doesn't negate the fact that you're a bad fucking person if you didn't vote against keeping Trump out of office. You guys are acting like fucking Mitt Romney won. Donald Trump won. And if that wasn't enough for you or anybody else to get out and make sure the other candidate got into office, you're either incredibly short-sighted and ignorant, or you're just an incredibly apathetic and privileged person. One thing that will definitely have me sleeping a little bit easier is that these online leftists, they know they're fucking guilty. That's why they're all making so many fucking videos begging you not to blame them, as if they didn't lead harassment campaigns against anybody who was openly stating that they were voting for Kamala Harris, as if they themselves didn't spread harmful rhetoric pre-election to their hundreds of thousands of followers. And it's so clear how many people were just punching above their weight and did not understand the situation as a lot of us were telling them, because it's so clear from their behavior now and how they're begging you, please don't blame me for the amount of people who didn't vote, because even though I consistently spread that kind of rhetoric to my hundreds of thousands of followers, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I have no hand in it, because they thought Kamala was going to win, and therefore what they did was going to be inconsequential. And here's another way I know that they're fucking grasping at straws, because a bunch of them are trying to, in my comments, reference Bernie Sanders' statement on his criticisms of the Democratic Party and why they lost. Except up until this moment, I thought all of those vehemently pro-Palestinian, anti-Kamala people hated Bernie Sanders and anyone who took a stance like him, because Bernie Sanders absolutely believes that the state of Israel has the right to exist. And that's been enough for every single one of you to jump online and call everybody who believes in a two-state solution, etc., a Zionist and a colonizer, and saying that they're the most evil person in the world and nobody should listen to them. But now that Bernie Sanders is putting out something you kind of agree with, you can put that aside. It's transparent as fuck, to the point where it's offensive, because the rest of us can see right fucking through you. Can you try a little harder? Yeah, history will not look kindly upon those who say stupid shit like this is the fault of the Democrats for not running an effective campaign. Because let me be very fucking clear. The two options could have been Donald Trump and a poll. Just a wooden poll. And you should have been out there voting for the fucking poll. Like, should we have the conversation about how to run a more effective campaign and probably re-poll what the entire left-leaning basis wants to see from their nominee? Yeah, we should focus and dig into that. But, like, let's be very clear. This election never should have been about that. It's such basic fucking common sense, right? The American people just elected a literal fascist as president, and like not like a secret one, like openly a fascist. A man with numerous corruption, white-collar felony charges against him. A man who has made derogatory comments about at least 75% of the people who live in the United States. The man who said he's going to work to deport any political protesters, any political dissenters. The man who said he's going to make protest illegal and grant blanket immunity to all police officers. The man who's going to start deporting people based on race. I genuinely don't even know if these people understand how fucking ridiculous they sound. You think in 50 years, when they're still suffering the ramifications of this presidency, that they're gonna sit there and say, oh, I totally understand that you didn't feel energized by the Democratic campaign, and therefore, I understand. Of course they're not gonna fucking do that, because they're gonna look at you and say, you should have known better. How fucking dare you abandon everybody in the future like that? You're not going crazy. It is as simple as you think it is. These people just made a choice that they will never be able to live with, so they're going to try and make it seem as complicated as possible to try and justify their action. Because a lot of these people did something fucking unspeakable. A lot of these people actively posted to their hundreds of thousands of followers, actively participating in voter suppression. They can have all their emotions that they want. They're melting down because they'll never be able to fucking live with themselves in peace again. And quite frankly, I don't care. Because it's not like they made that choice with no idea of what was going to happen. People sat on this app and fucking begged them to stop. Begged them to stop with that rhetoric. Begged them to stop with that messaging. And they laughed in those people's faces. Quite frankly, with all that's going to come, you not being able to live with yourself for actively participating in voter suppression while you live in New York City, you not being able to live with yourself is getting off fucking scot-free. Those people don't deserve to be at peace with themselves right now. And they're not, which is why they're all having fucking temper tantrums, begging you to stop blaming them, because they already blame themselves.
Grandma, you said you were on the right side of history, so what were you doing to keep Trump out of office during the 2024 election? I was criticizing the Harris campaign and trying to push them further left because they weren't progressive enough to earn my vote. Wait, what? I spent my time criticizing and railing against the Democratic campaign. Did you spend that much time railing against the Trump campaign? No, because that wasn't my focus. The Trump presidency wasn't my focus. My focus was pushing the Democrats further left, making them a more progressive party. Okay, don't you think you could have waited until, I don't know, after the election to do that? Because, like, now there's just dictator Trump and fascism. Like, there are no parties anymore. There is no left party. You're being completely fucking self-centered, kid. Okay? I had to vote with my moral conscience. I had to do what made me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And I wasn't looking to vote against Trump. I was looking to make the Democrats earn my vote. I was looking to send a message. So you didn't do anything to keep Trump out of office. No, that's the Democratic Party's job. You know, those politicians that I think are all corrupt and complete shills. And you know how I tell everybody that they're the ones that are going to have to work to make change? No, it's the Democrats. The Democrats are solely responsible. Okay, so you didn't do anything to keep Trump out of office. But please tell me, you didn't at least, like, help him get into office in any way, right? Like, you weren't encouraging people not to vote, right? Well, I mean, I told my hundreds of thousands of followers constantly that if they voted against Trump and that if they voted for Kamala Harris, that they were pro-genocide and that they were bad people and morally reprehensible. I told them that if they voted for Kamala Harris, that they didn't care about dead babies and decapitated children. Oh, so it is your fault.